Hey, look, there he is. Go ask him those questions, man. We've been meaning to hit him up. Let's ask him these questions. So got us.
Okay. Hey, what's up, man? How can I help you?
Hey man, I got a few questions. Got
Sure.
some time to answer for me?
Shoot away, man. No problem.
Oh man, can you overlap beads with stick welding without breaking the slag off?
Oh, to be honest, you can. Might not come out as pretty as you want it to, but you can. It's probably gonna look like crap, but my advice is if you're gonna be overlapping stick welding, definitely brush that slag off, man. That'll take care of you for sure, dude. That's my honest answer. What's up, though, man? You got more questions?
I got a few, man. Should I be using a classic 300D or a Pipe Pro 400?
No, it's really up to you, man. I use a Pipe Pro 400 for different applications. So the fact that if you want to use a SA 200, that's totally on you. Those machines really don't have a way to set up a Miller suitcase like mine does on the Pro 400. So that's really what separates those two machines right there. If you're not looking to stick weld off your machine, MIG weld off your machine, go ahead and just stick to the 300, dude.
I got another one. The best option for home use of a 140 amp MIG.
No, there's a couple of them out there. Of course, I like Lincoln, I like Miller, and I got a couple that are Lincoln and Miller. But Hobart makes a good one. Makes an okay one. No, they make a good one. And Fernie, they make a good one too. But don't look at just those machines. Explore more, get online, and seek out some more options. I'm sure ESOB or somebody has a great machine also as well. So they're all great machines. It's just a matter of what you're trying to use for the application.
What's the best way for a new welder to set up a welding rig?
The best way for you to probably get up and set up a welding rig is start with just a plain flatbed and start with that flatbed and start modifying it. A lot of people don't have the time to really build a welding bed, so start slow. Just get a flatbed and start with some toolboxes on it and just start working the bed slowly and gradually and then get it built up slowly, man.
Hey man, you got any advice to protect against carpal tunnel?
Carpal tunnel, let's talk about carpal tunnel. I know carpal tunnel, they say, is like a pinched nerve, I believe, in the wrist of some sort. So, there's exercises that you could do to prevent carpal tunnel. Of course, grinding and that type of stuff is just going to make it worse. So, there's, I believe, treatments that that you can get, and it might get expensive. So my advice for you is just really try to stay away from hard impacting tools and hard impacting things and a lot of vibration, man. But there's really like no cure for it that I know of. But then again, I'm not a medical doctor. Don't take my advice that far.
Tips for uphill welding running both 1/8 and 3/32 7018, trying to pass my D1.1 test at school.
Well, it really depends. You know, uh, I believe the D1.1 test might be vertical. With the 332 rod, you don't want to really weave it out too much. You want to, they say, keep the diameter of the rod on each side of the puddle. So my suggestion is, whatever size puddle you're running with the rod is how far you should be running that out. Don't get extreme with your heat. Because that will cause some implications, but then again, you don't want to be too cold either. There is a right setting for each of the heat, and 332 likes to burn anywhere between like 90 and 115 or 110. Maybe not so hot 115, but sometimes I like to run mine around 120 amps. And then with that 1/8 inch rod, it just gets anywhere from like 120 amps to 140 amps. You got to really find your ballpark in those amp ranges to where you can get your puddle spreading softly and smoothly. It shouldn't be a fight. It should be a consistent movement. You got to really work on that distance of hovering your rod when you're traveling as well too. I hope that helps your answer, man. If you got more, hit me back.
Advice for first year welding biz?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. There's a lot of advice to go into your first welding business, the first year you're in business. My advice for you, man, is if you're going to get into business, make sure you know what you're getting into. There's a lot of steps to take. There's a lot of hoops to really, jump through. So make sure that you do got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, because there's insurances you need to have, and there's certain liabilities that you need to be responsible for, especially if you're going to be working people at, some expense. You're going to need to have some kind of insurance to protect those people. So, if you're working by yourself, man, it's a lot of work, but it's not impossible. I've done it. Many people have done it before me, and many people will do it after me. My best advice for you is just make sure you know what you're getting into for your business, and you should be able to thrive.
the best way to get on as a helper on a pipeline or with a journey?
I'll tell you what, man, it's real cliquish out there in the industry. You're either union or you're non-union, and you know, people roll tight, people roll deep together, and I know that it's hard sometimes to get out there, but it's not impossible. So again and again, I always tell people it's all about networking. It's about who you know. It's not about who you blow. And you know, it's about being an honest and good person, you know, and having the good knowledge. It's hard to get on the pipeline when you don't have the experience and you don't have the knowledge. So be sure to, you know, find something where you can build that experience, because not anybody's just going to take you out there on the pipeline and give you the experience unless they really genuinely love you and want to take care of you and take you under their wing, man. It's not rare, but it's rare.
How to penetrate with 7018 rods?
I'll tell you what, man, if you're too cold, you're not going to penetrate. You got to turn it up, and that's the only way you're going to be able to penetrate with rod, period.
What was going on in your 20s?
I'll tell you what, man, in my 20s, man, there was a lot of grinding and just keeping to myself, you know, but at the same time too, I did love my life, and I did love to do things. So you know, I did a little bit of traveling, and you know, I settled down in my 20s. I got married, I had kids, man. I bought my house for my wife, and you know, I had a couple cars we got for ourselves, you know. But I worked hard for all that, so that's what I was doing in my 20s. I was working hard and establishing my life.
What all do I need to go weld pipe?
I'll tell you what, man. It's going to take a welding machine to go on weld pipe. It's going to take some welding rod to go on weld pipe. It's going to take pipe. And then it also is going to take a welding hood, and the ambition of somebody behind that welding hood wanting to put in the work, putting on the gloves, putting on the shirt, taking the safety serious, and going out there and being driven to weld pipe. If you're welding structural in a shop and you're just trying to figure out how to weld pipe, well, then seek out pipe welding jobs for pumps, compressors. There's all kinds of different things that entail pipe, you know. I mean, some people want to do exhaust pipes. It really depends what kind of pipe you're trying to weld. Pipe is a variety of different skills and techniques, from MIG, TIG to stick. And you know, if you want to learn how to weld pipe, I suggest just getting a welding machine and really figuring out pipe basics. Hit up my YouTube channel, because I got tips and tricks on how to weld that pipe.
What is the easiest way to learn TIG?
I'll tell you what, there is no easy way to learn anything except for just picking up and doing it. With TIG, you're definitely going to learn how to use both your hands. But to learn TIG first, you're going to have to learn how to run that arc. So my advice is get two pieces and learn to fuse them together before you start adding the filler metal. Get used to walking your cup and learning the arc before you start applying the rod, because once you're doing that, your hand is going to be doing something else. So you're going to need to learn how to occupy this hand before you start feeding this rod in with this hand. I hope that helps, man, because I know TIG welding. I know it is a little tricky.
How many contacts in northern Nevada?
I'll tell you what, man, I really don't. I could try to reach out and see if I can get contacts for you, but for the most part, I'm Colorado based, and I usually keep my business around Colorado. Anybody else reaching out for my business, of course, is, you know, reaching out to me, and I do business with them, but there's nobody that I'm doing business with at this moment out there.
Keep getting slag on my hot pass. Rules to go by: 7018, 332nd.
It really depends if you're trapping the slag with your 7018 or if you're trapping the slag with your 6010. Now, you hear me again and again say you should grind your bead down to not flush, but just to where the wagon trails are. Some people like to grind past the wagon trails, but just don't grind past the wagon trails. If you're trapping slag with your hot pass on your cap or something like that, you might not be holding your walls long enough. And then if you don't hold your walls long enough, you don't spread your puddle to it. And in fact, you trap slag, which is like undercut. So, you know, I'm not sure exactly where you're trapping the slag at, whether it's on your hot pass or somewhere in your fill or even on your cap. But, you know, one thing I know about this welding rod with low high is you definitely want to run hot, and you never want to fire up in the same spot. You always want to drag your puddle down to your starting position.
Welded manganese.
Oh man, I don't weld that stuff. What the heck is that?
Settings for 6010. 8th, 5/32 for an SA 200.
I tell you what, man, if you're looking for the settings on any kind of machine like that, the ballpark range is usually you want to be anywhere in the third gear range. I'm not sure if it's going to have third gears or an open range, but that's anywhere between, you know, 210 or 190 at a high end starting point. Your low end starting point, you know, between like maybe either 120 or 100, depending on where your gear range or your free floating range is. But with those rods right there, is you want to be in that main gear setting range, and then as your fine arc adjusts, you know, that's going to be totally on you on how you like your puddle to stack. But for those type of rods, you know, for the 60-10 1/8, you know, I like to run mine anywhere between 100 amps to like 120 amps for good penetration, and then any rods other than that, of course, is just more heat. 120 anywhere to 150, 160. Really depends on how hot I want to melt it.
You ever failed a weld?
But the X-ray tech was clearly wrong.
No, I'm sure I have. I failed. I haven't say I failed many tests, but I failed many. Or even just x-rays. You know, I've had my fair share of failure to know where I was going wrong in my welding procedure that day or that moment to really know I was messing up. And yes, there has been times where an x-ray tech might have called it and we found it, you know, deemed to be good. But for the most part, if the x-rays trying to fight it or trying to bite it, I ain't trying to deny it. I just accept the x-ray, it's failure, and I repair it honestly. But yeah, it happens. No biggie. You catch repairs, you fix them.
I get out of the shop job and start pursuing working in the oil and gas industry.
You know, that's self-motivation and connections. You got to have the connection, and then you got to be self-driven and motivated to go out there and put in the action. You see people all the time building rigs. If you're in the shop and you're making money, all your spare money should be going to building that rig and planning for your future. Don't waste it. You know, it's important to focus on your future, and so don't think that and, you know, might not be in the position to even make money and save money, you know, but slowly and surely, one tool at a time. That's what it takes. One fucking rim at a time if you got to buy it.
What do you think separates a good welder from an elite welder?
Well, I'll tell you what, a good welder is an elite welder. To be honest, let's just be honest. If you're saying he's a good welder, you're probably just being humble, and he's probably an elite welder. And an elite welder, you know, is just somebody who's definitely an all-around, not just welder, but a fabricator and knowledgeable person about the welding industry. To be an elite welder, you know, I guess there is a difference when I think about it. You know, you can be an okay, good welder and just get by, but an elite welder can really pick up any kind of welding skill technique and just either pick it up and push it out or just duplicate it over and over again. It takes an elite welder to pick up any kind of weld and do it on the drop of a dime like this. I mean, I'm not calling myself an elite welder, but I know at times I'm able to drop the MIG, pick up the TIG, and then drop it all and go stick weld either up or downhill process. And it takes a good skilled welder to do that. I'm an okay welder, I'm a good welder, but an elite welder could, you know, do all that and make it look good and make it look easy and effortless. That's an elite welder. And he's a cool guy because he's not going to be a dick. Actually, there's a lot of dick elite welders I know.
Speaking of, should you take shit from your welder or talk shit back even if it's for your own good?
That's completely on you. You can talk shit all day, but that's on you. You can be the nice guy, you can not talk shit. I know guys who take the shit all day and never dish it back, and I know guys who just dish shit back and forth all day. It's really a personal thing, man. You don't have to take it, but you can if you want. If you want to, you know, it's on you.
Have you ever used an optical lens or a Wens lens? And if so, did you like it?
You know, I've never used the optic lens, I don't believe, but I do carry a Wens lens on me at times. I love lenses. I have a Wens lens that I have, but it's not automatic. Got them right here. And I really enjoy it. It's a certain kind of lens. This is just a hard lens, we call it. You know, it's not an auto lens. But I use that. That's a shade 12. I use that in certain applications. You know, I get in a certain spot for a certain thing. I use that type of lens. So I like to keep all my lenses on me because you never know what type of welding technique you gotta use.
What's the best way to fit up an eccentric reducer other than eyeballing it?
Well, sometimes on a reducer like that, there's a groove on the inside. Sometimes that implicates the center of that, but not always. So what I like to do is I like to draw a circle on the table, the diameter of the outside of the eccentric, whatever I'm doing, the bigger side, and draw me, you know, a cross and point all my crosses. And then when I set that eccentric on there, I'm able to, of course, you got to eyeball it. I mean, you either eyeball it or you don't. It's either you eyeball it on there or you eyeball it to the design on the table there to where you see it seam fit. I mean, there is a certain way where you can measure each side with squares to make sure it's not rolled one way or the other way. And once you get that perfect, then what you do is you would draw a chalk line on your reducer and then fit it up like that, knowing that the top is the top.
What's the trick to 60-10 open root? What's too hot? What's too cold? Or too slow? What's too fast?
Well, it's a formula. And whatever size rod you're using, you're going to have a certain amount of heat. You're going to have a certain landing and a certain gap and a certain speed travel, all for the formula to come together and work for you when you're trying to apply that application for 60-10. So that's something I'm always preaching, I'm always trying to teach. So you got to remember, same size landing, same size gap, and then you got to know the right amount of pressure you're putting behind your rod. You got to know the right travel speed of your rod, and then you got to have the right heat of your rod. So it's a formula.
Have you ever worked for mirrors? If so, any thoughts?
You know, I never worked for mirrors. I actually tried to get on with mirrors, but I couldn't, or they didn't want to hire me. No big deal. But I do got a friend over there, and he's good people. Mad shout out to Larry Mayo. He's good people to me, and I got nothing but respect for that man. And I know he runs the show over there, so you know that's something you can check out if you want. I got no hard feelings against mirrors. They're good people to me.
What kind of lens do you recommend for a GTAW?
So anybody that doesn't know, GTAW is a gas tungsten arc welding, which is TIG welding most of the time. I would say a hard fixed lens like the one I just pulled out, a Wens lens. But sometimes that doesn't work for people because they get lost and they need that auto lens. So there is an auto lens that you can use that doesn't really set it off, and that's the one I like to use, and it's the True Arc lens, the adjustable shade lens. I got one here, actually, because it's my backup. So you could always use True Arc, and you can go to truearcweld.com, and they have a 5 to 13 shade. I really like this one because in a spot that I really need to TIG weld, this lens has always come in clutch. I keep that with the rest of my lenses. That's just a brand new one I pulled out.
I got a 6G 60-10 pipe test. Need some tips.
So I'll tell you what, man. There's a lot of stuff that comes into that pipe test, and we're doing right now a series on my YouTube channel about that test. But just to kind of go over some quick tips with that, it's really important that you know your rod angle when you're doing that 60-10. You know that you don't want to undercut the inside of that pipe too much, and at the same time too, you want to make sure you get a good bead in there, just because of the positioning. Because when you go to start welding it out, sometimes it sucks that bead out. So I don't really take a big gap on that test. I always take a really slammed gap so I can get a real good crown bead in there. And when I'm hot passing, it really pushes it in there and amplifies the heat and pulls out whatever kind of trash. I weld hot, so that's important for that test. One thing with that test too is you burn hot all the way to your cap, and when you get to your cap, you turn it down and you put a pretty cap on it. And my advice is, if you're a skilled welder, you can burn into your start. But if you're weary at any point, I would just take a grinder for a moment and hit that start before you fire up on your cap. Now, depending on it's uphill or downhill, it doesn't matter. Some people are confident in all their welds. Just be confident. You'll pass.
That's all I got today, man.
Well, damn, I appreciate it, man. You guys have a great day. We'll wrap to you later.